The Rownde here, and I'm here with a great collaboration video. This video is using information from Chris Sizemore. He's a HEMA instructor who sent information about the Rownde. He sent a video to me. I'll be showing that in a minute for you to look at. And it's their interpretation of the Rownde from Ledall Roll. This is an English longsword manual from the 16th century. I would like to also thank Sean Krieger, who trains with him and makes excellent fetters and practice blunts, but he made me a razor sharp Italian style longsword. Now, in their mind, they thought this sword would be the most perfect one for cutting and thrusting and being able to do this specific technique. I think this is one of the finest longswords I have. It's the most well balanced for sure, and feels great for cutting. It has enough blade heft to cut extremely well. So I'm expecting an excellent performance because I did receive the sword, and when I received the sword, the first thing I did is I wanted to test this Rownde idea, and especially the way they showed it, because I've used techniques very similar to it in combat myself, not only in Eskrima and Arnis and martial arts, but in the SCA and in HEMA style fencing. So yeah, I agree with the technique. I believe this is probably exactly what Ledall was speaking of. Because when I tried the cut on this roll of wet newspaper, which is extremely difficult to cut, being over 3 inches in diameter, and I did it up high, but a slight diagonal, not a horizontal as he describes it as a horizontal technique in the actual manual, it cut completely clean through, a beautiful cut. So a lot of it I give credit to the sword, but I also give credit to the technique. So what I shall do is I'll show you the clips that, some of the highlights of the clips that Chris Sizemore sent me about the Rownde and their interpretation of it. And then what we're going to do after you see that, I will go ahead and test on an actual head. Wait, I almost forgot. I got carried away after doing the first half of the video, and I started testing this wonderful Italian longsword by Sean Krieger from Krieger Arms with the Rownde, a technique from Ledall Roll. It's an English longsword text and from around the 16th century. Chris Sizemore, I used his technique that he decided was probably what he was talking about, and I'm thinking he might be completely right. So stay tuned to see this testing here. But I wanted to stop real quick in the middle of the video and let everyone know I have a very important project. I will be going back up to Asfolk. It's been almost 2 years since the last time I was there, and I came back with awesome, spectacular videos handling historical weapons, testing European techniques from the actual manuals and from actual recreation of Viking Age sword and shield techniques. Yes, it was excellent, all the videos we had. We had a seminar by Craig Johnson from Arms and Armor and the Ewart Oakeshott Institute, and there may be possibilities to go back to the Ewart Oakeshott Institute and Arms and Armor, plus hang out at Asfolk, hang out with Roland Vorzeka and get more valued information from him and Arthur von Eschen, the living historian and Viking Age combat expert himself. The only thing is, they're not able to pay for my ticket this year, so I've set up a Fundly account. I would like to thank everybody. I'm already up to $155. I only need about $600 to be sure I can make it up there. As it gets closer to time, of course, the ticket gets more expensive. The quicker we get it, the more excess money I'll have left over if we can get to $600, so I can buy SIM cards and extra batteries so I don't miss any footage and cover any excessive costs for carrying extra camera equipment. Because I want to make sure I get the entire thing this time. I missed out a lot last time. I came back with a lot of awesome videos, and most of y'all know this from Asfolk Viking Martial Arts and the Ewart Oakeshott Institute. But this year, we're going to have Roland Vorzeka teaching a seminar, and we're going to have me hosting a Forged in Fire style weapon making competition and testing competition. So yes, it'll be very much like Forged in Fire, but our differences, it'll be Thran style, and we're going to be forging everything historically accurate. So if you're interested in it, be sure and contact Asfolk Viking Martial Arts. They'll give you all the parameters on it. I know it's got to be a charcoal fire with period tools. If you think you can do that, be sure and contact them. If you can send the weapon up there before the actual event, which will happen in about 2 months, we will be testing your weapon. If it wins, it'll be featured on the Thing Thran YouTube channel in the testing and the competition and the judging, and then featured as a unique weapon, forged historically and shown for all its greatness. So I hope you enjoy the idea of this as much as I do. And if you can go by Fundly, and it's Fundly, send Thran to Asfolk Viking Martial Arts, or Fundly take Thran to Viking Martial Arts. Yes, I think it's actually under that in the URL. You can also find links to it on Facebook. But anyway, thank you so much for helping me so far. If you can't actually help out with donations, just share it to lots of people. Hopefully they'll want to see these videos, these historical videos come to par, and the awesome competition. And back to the video. And that's the whole point. If you all saw me cutting on the rolls, a lot of those cuts were extremely low. And that was a lot more like when I used to be in a Screamer RNS and we practiced a technique where we would fake. We kind of roll the blade, pretend we're attacking high, and then cut low, which could work, especially if you have two weapons or a shield. But in longsword, you wouldn't want to just come out here and then aim low, leaving your head open possibly. So no, and that attack where I attacked high and it came about real low, you probably wouldn't be attacking that low with the technique. To protect the hands and make sure you were safe, as you normally engage and step forward, the blade comes out with this foot. So that's what you want. So you want to make sure your hands are protected, but in this technique, you can come completely back around.
Keeping the hands forward, rounds are almost always found doubled.
So you step into engage, and it comes right back around, but you could also step out of the way, allowing you to get more reach around his actual weapon, or do a rebat, which means that attack would be to bat his blade out of the way when he tries to engage you, and come around and still hit him with the exact same attack. And doubling in English longsword doesn't mean double killing like in HEMA tournament. It means the same attack continuously after the other. That's why I kind of disagree with the idea that some people think from Ox that you would come in with a Zrechow and then do it again to do the same idea. First of all, you'd be in much closer, because this is a closer attack. It's the same idea as when you come in to cut in close with something like this is not a full reach. This man in his manual speaks of reach. He speaks of reaching out and getting your opponent and getting out. So you attack, after you've attacked, you withdraw. He doesn't fight from blade binds normally. This whole manual has nothing to do with blade binds hardly at all. Now, there'll be a few little techniques like that in it, but it's not a blade bind manual per se. So if we look at it that way, and he's speaking about a lot of cutting techniques, and we're talking about extreme cutting like you would be doing in unarmored Blossfechten, I believe that honestly is probably what he meant, that he meant not this, but just coming back around with the same attack, because I think it would work excellently well. And I think it gives you an excellent amount of power that you probably wouldn't have in something like trying to come back around in this manner. You just wouldn't have the same power on the second cut, and you'd be far and too close to be withdrawing and trying to do that. So unless you were closing the gap and you'd already cut over here and try to step in and do it, I don't advise it in that manner.
A horizontal cut at the head around cuts through a circular arc while keeping the hands forward. I almost found doubled. Doubled is another device or mechanic used in Ledall that's kind of unique to its system. But basically, most people are saying the round is your normal Zverkow. So if I'm up in Ox, I cut through this way. Well, it does qualify as a circular arc, but you can't double that. You can, but it's an awkward mechanic. If I'm here and I cut through, how am I supposed to? I mean, you can do it like that, I'm sure. Like that, but I think it's better this way. So if I'm in any guard, this shoulder held position like Montag on the shoulder, or above the head, or Ox, or Posta di Finestra, or whatever. It don't matter. Whatever guard position I am in, I can cut from here with this mechanic. So I'd come through, boom, boom, cutting in. Alright? The first hit can be used as a rebat or to clear distance as I'm engaging. So I'm going to do a little bit slower. So if I'm, let's say I'm in the high Montag or Posta di Falcone. So I would cut through and again. And you can do it either way. And then from this side. And you can do it with a step. You know, those sorts of movements is what I think the round is, and not the Zverkow.
But anyway, you've seen the clip. We're going to start on the head. This was an excellent test. I think it showed us something about it. This is going to show us a lot more. Now, for the sake of making this realistic, I want to talk about longsword and unarmored fencing in general. If you're going to start off with a cut, you want to be out of range, and everyone knows that. But in case we have viewers who don't understand what we're talking about, the tip of the sword follows a straight line to your opponent normally. You're not going to cut like up here like that normally. You're not going to come in and try to cut in that manner. You want full reach if you can get it. Let's say it's straight from my shoulder. But let's say I'm going to reach out and cut somebody as I engage. If you're noticing, the tip of the sword's following a more or less straight line. So if I did that to attack this, I would be hitting at a slight angle, if you're noticing, like this. So for sake of realism, sword moves first, and we'll come back around and I'll try stepping off angle with the cut. Now the idea with that is if I perform it properly, I should make him have to engage some way, like to defend himself or move. So if he moves back, then you could come back around stepping again, or you could withdraw if you had to as well. But if it's done correctly, everything's covered, and I can come back around. So we'll see how that works. So it'd be a rebat, or maybe even just a fake, where you pretend but you don't quite do it. All right, let's see what happens. I'm going to start with a step. And I cut a wee bit too high. I took a little piece off and that was way too high. Let's try that again. Oh! That's what I wanted. Now that is the cut that I expected from this sword. And I think that shows the quality of this sword from Sean Krieger Armory. But we went through with a PVC pipe inside the spine, which goes up inside the skull. We went through part of the jaw, the head, and almost took off this piece here. We got to get a close-up of that.
This has got some movement that you're cutting.
Oh yeah, I was taking little pieces off the top. No, I'm sorry, my aim was off. It's a very light sword, and I keep expecting to have some kind of heft to the blade. I'm used to very heavy swords in the respect that the blade and the actual sword, you know, kind of have to be handled a certain way. This one's so light that it was easy to miss like that, to actually miss a hair high, but that's my fault from not being familiar with the sword.
Cutting a few rolls of paper is not enough for
Yeah, this was way more than a few rolls of paper.
I meant earlier.
Oh, check that out. This has got to be the cleanest decap we've ever had in the respects that it went clean through. Took out the PVC pipe that sticks up through it. Cut completely through both sides, our coconut skull. All the fake blood in there. And the only reason this didn't cut is I think it was able to give. The actual piece here was able to give some. But that is clean. I don't think you can get any cleaner than that. I do not think this same attack, if I were to come in this way and try to hit it and hit it again, would have that type of effect. Yeah, notice I knocked it off, but I mean, if I came in, hit the sword to rebat it this way, and then try to come around again, I just don't see it. It's not the same thing. This has the power that after the rebat, the second attack would probably bat the sword out of the way if you did it properly and with a slight step, and still injure your opponent if it didn't cut past the blade and into him and had already knocked his sword out of the way. Feint to get that effect, to get your attack, to make him make a mistake, I think it would be more than enough to do so. So let's set this back up here for now, as we always do, so we at least have a little more of a head. But that was impressive. Thank you, Sean Krieger. And he's actually said that the sword is mine to have. This is one of the greatest swords that I own, and it is an honor. Oh, most certainly. But pretty much know this was a outright kill. The man's dead. Doesn't matter if I hit him in the neck, a little lower into the jaw. I think it would have went into the nerves and the actual arteries through the jaw and still killed our opponent. There's no way to guarantee that, but I'm pretty sure, I'm sorry, that amount of force in the cut and the fluidity of the technique and the follow through, yeah, especially if you take that little back step with it to step around his defense, I think he's pretty much dead. What I shall try now is, we didn't try the offside, and now the offside on the Zruchow, if somebody believes that that might be what they were talking about from like an ox style thing, I don't think you get the same amount of power as you do on the initial cut. The initial cut, trying to do that, I don't think you would have it. But let's see what happens from this angle here if I come back around and try cutting with a horizontal cut. So in this case, I'll be in this position and coming back around. So I get the initial proper engagement, and then you get to come back around, and I may even add a little bit of a step to it as I come back around if I don't hit my camera. Oh, I hit too high, cooked the head apart again. Ha ha! That was pretty entertaining. We took the head apart again. We'll just leave that off, I'm assuming. I could put it back, but I just hit a hair high. Because in my mind, I still have a target there. Would have been an excellent cut for earlier, but yeah, not exactly what we wanted. And it was loose, so although it cut, it also took the top off. Let's try it one more time. I'll try the lower. Ah! Now, I could have got more power, but I was going for accuracy and make sure I hit the target. But we're all the way into the jaw and cut all the way up under the bottom of this coconut spine that we have. So I think we've got really good power here. I'll leave the blade in place so we can see it. And I came in horizontal. What happened is our blade slightly redirected due to the gel and hitting underneath our coconut because it's rounded and not like an actual skull would be in this position. And it kind of cut down at an angle. So we have an excellent cut here. And into the jaw. It actually cut into the actual jaw that we have in it slightly. So let's go ahead and try decap's what I'm going to say next. Okay, to speak of a one-handed blade like an arming sword, or for you to use this as an arming sword, the same things apply. Even if I was to use this one-handed, when I step in, I want to lead with the blade, and I want it to be a straight line. So that's basically the way that works. Now, when I do that, that ensures that I have my guard, my hands protected as it comes out, because I want the blade out where the quillions are protecting my hand. Same thing with the longsword if you're engaging in unarmored combat. But these are still very powerful cuts. And one of the techniques I'd like to talk about in single sword real quick before I finish this guy off is one I used to do. So I would do a little roll. It's a little bit smaller and shorter, but it's to come inside the arm. So the idea is you step offline with this little roll, which is harder to do with a longer sword like this that's not balanced for one-handed. But you end up coming in and cutting inside the arm. You can also do that from the inside if you were to come across. You step out to cut, step out and come into the back side of the arm. Now what you're expecting is the gentleman to actually try to parry in some form or way. So as he steps to parry or to get his bind, you don't engage it, you come inside to cut inside the arm, like the forearm, or in the other respect, you come around to get the back side of the forearm. And this is to take the back of the hand, the inside of the wrist. It's not to attack the person himself. If you were to step in that way and then try to attack the person, your head would now be vulnerable and he would cut you directly in the head. So that is a disclaimer about when I actually did the tatami, or the rolled wet newspaper, the poor man's tatami. I cut awfully low. So starting off with a cut up high and then coming back around low might not be the way you want to go, is what I was trying to explain, except in very certain circumstances when you get maybe an attack response to your attack and the blade goes offline, and then you could step offline and maybe throw a lower attack. It's possible, but you wouldn't want to practice it as a technique to do it regularly, because you might end up getting your hands cut or your own arm cut, or get killed outright by getting taken out by hitting directly in the head with a response. So anyway, let's go ahead. We're going to try to decap this guy with what we found was the most powerful technique. Wrong spot. Right spot. There we go. I keep wanting to hit too high after starting off that high. I'm not used to trying to miss, but I wanted the full rebound of coming through and coming back around, so I do apologize. But I would say that's an excellent decap, and our man is dead. We came right under the bottom of the jaw, the thickest part of the neck, and cut the head clean off.
Now you got dirt on the clean gel.
Yeah, I did. And
that was all silly.
for anybody who might want to know, The blade took very little damage, if any. I might need to touch it up a hair with a stone. I'll use like an Arkansas stone or a sharpening stone like you'd find in the old Viking graves. Touch it up with that's all it would take. There's no major niches or damage that I can see. And he was worried about this getting sword rattle, the technical term for it, sword rattle. No, this blade stayed together well, and he didn't use any kind of adhesive in it or anything. He made a good sword. This is a sturdy, strong sword. Razor sharp, and if you look at this, that is a perfectly clean cut other than the dirt from the ground. Yeah, even through the PVC spine and through the bottom of the jaw. If you look here, you can see it took part of the jaw off as well as the spine. This is like one of the best cutters I have seen that is a two-handed weapon for its weight. Being so nimble, so well balanced, being able to be used one-handed or two-handed, I have to give it my seal of approval. Excellent, thank you, Krieger. So, Krieger Armory makes one hell of an Italian longsword. Every bit as good as Albion. If you want to go by Facebook, you can check out Sean Krieger's Italian style longsword or any of his other longswords that I'm sure are excellent, just as excellent as this one. I love this one, it's one of my favorites. I highly recommend it now. You can go by and check that out at Facebook or at his website and inquire with him about blades such as this. We can also thank Chris Sizemore for his instructional video, his interpretation of Ledall's Roll, the 16th century fencing manual for a long sword. And I don't like blade binds a lot either, so I can totally agree with Ledall on this. I think it's an excellent technique, and if used properly, I think you will dispatch your opponent if he falls for it. But always be prepared, because he may not. And anyway, as always, farewell.
If you'd like to help support the channel, you can always sport a Thane Thrand YouTube channel shirt that you can get over at viralstyle.com at the Thane Thrand merchandise store. We have coffee mugs, koozies, a wide variety of shirts and hats. You can also help support us on Patreon, and if you do that, you'll also get exclusive content that can only be seen there.